A lot of people think that the deeper you squat, the better that squat is. More depth isn't always better, especially if you're losing control just to get lower. Adam's going to explain how low to actually go with your squats, why it depends on your goals, and how to know if you're squatting deep enough.
How deep should you squat? I think this is going to depend on a couple of factors. Main one being, what is the purpose for the squat? I think general blanket statement, how deep should you squat? As deep as you can with good technique, so with other factors being controlled for. There's no point squatting super deep if the rest of your technique falls apart in order to do it. In powerlifting, for example, the rule is that the top surface of the thigh at the hip needs to be below the top surface of where the knee joint is. Not 90 degrees, not parallel. We want to actually break the plane of the top of the knee, get the hips nice and low. So generally speaking, for most people, I'd say this is a good minimum baseline. A good rule of thumb, if our goal is hypertrophy and joint health, especially if we are wearing a squat shoe or doing a high bar style squat, would be to fully close the knee joint. So all the way down to the point where the hamstrings touch the calves. As you can see right now, in order to do that, I have to pop my heels up or adjust my stance out a little bit. That extra depth may mean you use slightly less load, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Something to consider, like I said before, is the rest of your technique. Depth alone does not make good technique. It should be part of a whole. What I mean by that is, if in order to get that depth, I end up losing control of where my hips are in space, or I allow a ton of rounding under load to get into that position, that depth might be too much for you right now. That doesn't mean we don't want to work on improving that depth over time, but we may need to squat to a box or just consciously stop the squat a little bit higher in that position where we can still maintain good technique. And as we get better at controlling our technique, we should then be able to access deeper ranges of motion. The same can be said for machine squats, so leg press, hack squat, that sort of thing. With those sorts of movements, go as deep as you feel comfortable with and that the machine allows. If you get knee pain or pain in the hips, then unless you're competing in a sport that demands you hit a certain range of motion, the priority needs to be joints feeling good, joints recovering, not being in pain, and good technique on the whole. If you can satisfy those things and just squat to the lowest range of motion you can, satisfying those points, I think you're onto a winner. So what this doesn't mean is we're not giving you an excuse to start doing any of this kind of quarter squats or half squats, unless you have an issue with pain and you're rebuilding your squat. So for example, say you get pain in your knees when you go below this point, then I would generally start a little bit higher, but the goal is to build back up to a full range of motion squat over time. So that's the only time when we'd say it's okay to not try and hit at least powerlifting standards of depth. But then again, it depends on sort of age, mobility, strength, that sort of thing. You know, if we've got people who generally, because of genuine limitations to ankle mobility or hip mobility, can't quite hit proper powerlifting depth, if they're not powerlifters, then we go to their full range of motion with good technique. So I think the main thing is establish what your good full range of motion is. So for example, if with a light load, say a 20 plate on each side, you can do a full range of motion squat, but you go up to 2 plates, 3 plates a side, and you start cutting your depth, then that's where I would start trying to assess what it is you're doing with your training, strip the load back, and if you are capable of doing a full range of motion squat to load, start from there and build back up. We don't want to be quarter squatting with more plates just for the sake of it. So that's the only thing I'd say about that.
So I hope that clears up a lot of misconceptions around squat depth. The goal isn't to chase depth at all costs. The goal is to move through as much range of motion as possible while maintaining control and matching it to what you're trying to achieve. That's exactly how we coach people, rather than telling everyone to squat the exact same way. We help people understand what good technique looks like for your body and your goals. If you'd like more tips like this, check out Strong Society Lifting Club online. Inside, you'll find more videos covering lifts like squat, bench and deadlift, plus the opportunity to get feedback from us. You can click the link to join or comment strong and I'll send it over to you.